Hi, welcome back to the My the Science Kids show. Should kids learn cursive or not? In this episode, my dad and I will discuss this a little bit, and you'll get to hear both the student and the teacher or parent perspective. So this will be a very fun episode for both parents and kids to learn and have a bit more perspective on this interesting cursive topic. So, the topic today is, should kids learn to write in cursive? This is a pretty interesting topic because I learned cursive. I think my cursive is like pretty good, pretty okay-ish. And we spent like a good amount of time, I mean mostly during COVID, but like we spent a good amount of time teaching me teaching me cursive and like perfecting it, making sure it had all the right slant and all the letters were like spaced well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we spent like a good amount of time on that.
Well, outside of school, like you and me did that.
Yeah, no, none of the schools I went to ever taught cursive, but I learned it outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I guess like a sub point of this topic, should schools teach cursive?
Okay.
Well, you're the parent, you're the one who like does the teachy stuff, so
Uh-huh.
go ahead.
Well, I think there is value in learning to write in cursive. But you know what percentage of kids I think the statistics I saw is kids around 18, 20 years old now. You know what percentage of them know cursive?
I'm gonna guess like 50%, like half of them.
That's an interesting guess. No, it's about 10%.
Whoa. At first I was thinking like 30, but then
Yeah.
maybe that's like too low because I'm sure like schools talk like also they're 18, so like by the time you like dial it back to when they were learning, like I'm sure schools talk only 10%.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I don't.
Wow.
I think we can look up the statistics on that. But even adults,
Yeah.
even like a very large percentage of, let's say 30, 40-year-olds don't know how to write cursive. If you go 60 years and above, then people
Like
write cursive.
the age of people who actually write letters.
Yeah, people write cursive.
Letter writing people know how to write cursive. I mean, like
Yeah,
I've
but
also written like yeah.
outside, but like 40-year-olds don't really know how to write cursive. Anyway, um,
So why do you think kids should learn to write cursive? Particularly because like the argument against it would be we're in the age of computers now and no one's going to be using cursive and like for example writing letters or stuff. No one
right.
does that anymore. So like, shouldn't we like stop teaching kids cursive and instead teach them typing or something?
Yeah. So, um, anything you learn comes at a cost of not learning something else. If you think about it that way, then what use is cursive, or what is the utility of cursive compared to something else? Okay, if you think about it in those terms. Well, if you were to think about it in those terms, and then nobody would learn painting. What percentage of people paint? Very few. So only the people that would paint should learn painting. Well, if that's the case, then or swimming. How often do you get to go swimming? Like not often. Then why should we teach? But a lot of people go to swim classes and spend time and effort going to swim
Okay, I
class trying
think
to learn.
swimming is like a different argument because there's like some aspect of survival in swimming.
Right.
In the rare, as the airlines say, in the rare event of a water landing,
Uh-huh.
um, I mean, you do have a life jacket, but it'd be nice to know how to swim.
Yeah, but
I'm
how
just saying,
often,
like,
thinking about it, how often has a swimming need from an emergency perspective happened? Or how often does that happen in some, that is not the reason to learn to swim,
yeah, I guess you're right.
right? It's by the same token, you should learn to fly because like a flying disaster is going to be as often as a swimming disaster.
Okay.
Okay, so that's not the reason to learn to swim, but you learn to swim because it's fun to do. It's a fun activity, and then opens all sorts of other opportunities for you. If you know how to swim, then you can go kayaking and be have more fun kayaking because you're not worried about the swimming part. Or you can there are sports in the water, or anyway, like all
Yeah.
sorts of things, right? Um, so just looking at it from this like purely a utilitarian perspective is not the correct way. That's one. The other one is there is art. Wow, the
Motorcycle.
motorcycles are crazy. There's art also in cursive. It's not. It doesn't just
Yeah.
have the
I think we
utility
have a
of.
book called like the art of cursive, or like the art
It
of
doesn't just
handwriting or
have the
something.
utility of translating from information to paper and then reading it back out. There's art involved in it, and that art over many years. If you look at like cursive videos on YouTube, you'll see tons of other cursive like there's a whole bunch of
Okay, okay, sure.
subcategories. So there's an art
But
in it.
do people really do cursive? Like, if you think of like writing as an art,
Mhm.
cursive wouldn't come to mind, but calligraphy like would. In that sense, should we learn calligraphy because it's an art? Like, what's the difference between cursive
True.
and
If
calligraphy?
you're
In your
learning
opinion?
cursive, might as well the goal might be may need to be calligraphy. Yeah, I could see that. Um, but anyway, most so the argument I've heard from teachers is that since the founding documents of America or
Yeah.
a lot of other countries are written in cursive because if they're old documents, then not having access to cursive locks you out of being able to read the direct documents the way they were written, which
Okay,
I
that's
think it's
not the
very
best
it's
argument.
not the best
Like, if
argument.
you're gonna argue for cursive, there are like not there are many other ways
You're right.
that cursive will be helpful,
Yeah.
like as opposed to something else. So,
So
I actually have a short story
uh-huh.
about cursive.
Yeah.
When I was in first grade,
Mhm.
I had not learned cursive at in the school that I was in at the time. The second graders would learn cursive. I sadly left after first grade, so I didn't get that. But second graders would learn cursive. So there was this one time, I'm not really sure, but uh, some second graders were doing some writing,
Mhm.
and I needed to be able to read it, but they wrote it in cursive. So I couldn't, because not only had I not learned to write cursive, I didn't learn to read cursive because sure, when you think about it, some cursive letters are like intuitive. Like if you're writing and your letters start to connect, it looks like cursive, like A or D or like Y or something. But F or Z or other letters of the cursive alphabet are like
Very different. Yeah,
there's
they
no
look very
relation,
different,
right?
right.
So I couldn't read cursive, and that actually like was a significant thing. Like I couldn't read, so the older kids had to read it for me.
Mhm.
And it was yeah, it was interesting because
So it was like a motivating factor for you to want to learn to read cursive.
no.
It wasn't. Okay. It was just
But
interesting.
it was just interesting how like if some people can read
Yeah.
cursive and some people can't,
Yeah.
does that create any sort of barrier? Because people can write in normal scripts, but I've
To the
gotten like
extent that there's yeah, maybe,
wait,
but if
uh,
go ahead, go ahead.
but I've gotten like letters from old teachers or like
Mhm.
um other pen pals and they're in cursive to the point where it's like difficult to read them. That's just like a personal style, you know? But like if I didn't know how to read cursive and the cursive was just straight out, just normal kind of like
Not too
not yeah,
stylish.
not
Yeah.
flourished
Yeah.
cursive
Uh-huh.
and I didn't know how to read cursive, if I got a letter like that, I wouldn't be able to read it. Would that like just be weird?
Yeah, that would be sad. But since only 10% of people from here on out, let's say, know cursive, you're not going to be locked out of a whole
Yeah.
bunch of information because you don't know cursive. They're just the majority of people by far are not writing cursive. So that's, but there are advantages to cursive outside of like this, besides disadvantages of not having cursive. There are advantages in knowing cursive. Some of the advantages, for example, is it, it's faster to write cursive. When you write cursive and you get good at it, it's definitely faster to write in cursive than not to write in cursive.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that, but that is one of the
So
arguments.
if you're taking notes and you're taking notes by hand, now, given that is also going away at some point. But if you're taking notes and you're taking notes by hand, then cursive is definitely faster than writing individual letters. In fact, there is a subset of cursive that you can from
Shorthand.
you go to shorthand, which is like cursive. It's that's a lot faster. You can write
It's
in
what,
shorthand.
like,
Yeah, in
reporters
shorthand you
use
can
or something.
write as fast as people can talk. Um, that's one. Second advantage of being able to do cursive is it's I think you can read it faster because the when you're reading cursive, you're reading words at a time. Over time, you get better at it. You're reading, like, your brain recognizes the entire
Isn't
word
what's that's
as opposed to individual letters. You're reading word, different words.
but
As a like the word itself
that's
becomes an
how
image.
you read. Also, that would kind of go away if you read, like, a different style of cursive. Like, written by a different person, that would look completely
Yeah,
different.
but if you read your own cursive, your own handwriting, then it'll be fast.
Wait, then why would you need to read your own handwriting faster?
Or fair
That
enough.
was,
Okay,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
a good
The
argument, but not really well thought out.
not the best argument. Okay. Um, when you're writing in cursive, um, I think it just feels good to have, like, this art that you produce that other people can readily consume. It's hard to, um sometimes it's hard to recognize good art if it's like a
Like,
painting, right?
modern art?
Yeah, like a modern art. Let's say modern art is like the extreme of it. Like, how do you recognize a good modern art? Um, you have to study art to be able to recognize good art. Okay, but for the most part, if you learn a little bit, like, you don't have to learn how to write a lot of cursive. Just after a little bit, you can very easily appreciate good calligraphy and good cursive. Like, you can read it, like, you see it, and it's like, oh, this is so good,
Yeah.
right? And that enjoyment is going to be missing in your life if you don't have cursive. Like, the enjoyment of writing something and like, trying to perfect it and trying to write it as good, and the enjoyment of appreciating somebody else's good handwriting. These are things that existed throughout history. Like, appreciating someone's handwriting was the first thing you would notice from someone when you get a letter. Sometimes people would meet over letters before they meet in person, and their first presentation of who they are, first impression of who they are, is their handwriting and is their actual writing, and then, like, the content of what they wrote comes in. But, like, when you look at someone's writing and it's beautiful, that already is a thing. So
Hmm.
some of the appreciation so I could understand what the teachers were saying. Like, they're not necessarily they don't necessarily mean uh like, you being locked out of the content of the Declaration of Independence. What they mean is you're locked out of the beauty of the entirety of the document if you're not able to read it and see the cursive and appreciate the entire thing.
Okay, I get that.
So there's that layer that is It's like being colorblind in a way. Like you can see things, but the beauty of certain things is lost in
That's
you.
kind of an exaggeration. But yeah, I can see how in the art form
Mhm.
cursive might be more
Yeah.
impressive,
And I
but
think and I think be able to write in cursive, because you have to pay attention to how the letters are attached and whatever, it might actually be that you remember things better.
if you like write your notes in cursive, because
Yeah.
it's proven that writing your notes gives you better memory, but like in cursive, that'd
Yeah.
actually be a good study for someone to do.
I'm sure that has been studied. That's something that we can look up and see if
Yeah.
it's the different handwriting styles contribute to the amount of memory that you have of the thing that you write.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of the arguments that you made for cursive, particularly the art ones, still stand, and in that
Mhm.
way, cursive should be taught. Maybe in schools, maybe not, but
Yeah.
cursive should be taught. Um, some of your arguments were not as well thought out, but there was a few arguments that I feel like would also apply to typing. For
Mhm.
example, like the speed factor.
Yeah.
Um, it's well known that people can type much faster than they can. Actually, I don't know.
They can write. Yeah.
Yeah, much faster than they can write.
Mhm.
And like you said, practicing just a little bit. Once you actually start to get the hang of it, you actually can type really fast, the
Mhm.
same way cursive would be.
Yeah.
Um,
Or you can learn to type in shorthand, which is a lot faster also.
yeah, and also there's like people have invented shortcuts and stuff,
Yeah.
which is like texting
Yeah.
language if you want to go there. But yeah,
But I feel like the totality of the argument is different than the individual parts. I having gone through this whole discussion, I feel like individual rationales for cursive falls apart. Like there's you can dismiss each part of the thing,
yeah,
and it's maybe that's why we're in the place we are. Like the individual parts of it, people you can't defend the entirety of the thing with just the art part of it. But overall, I feel like something is lost now that we are essentially losing this whole art form or this whole method of communication. And in a way, it's like trying to hang on to a past, like anything else.
yes. But like, does anyone talk in Old English anymore? Do you like
No, but we
get
still read Shakespeare. No, we still read Old English, and if
yeah,
you,
and the documents of freedom will still be there for you to read them.
yeah,
Like they'll still be there for you to like admire. Wow, look
hmm
how people wrote in that time. Look at the beauty of like we the people. Look how like flowy they are. That'll still be there. But with like new ways to write, typing, with that coming in, do we really need to hang on to cursive? I guess that's like the whole question.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. I don't know if it's. I feel like there's definitely positives in having it, and I could see the arguments for use of your time in some other way.
Okay. That was a very fun episode.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.